Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi, and welcome back to the English with Kirsty podcast. And because real life sometimes gives us the best ideas, I wanted to do a short episode about something I was speaking with somebody about on LinkedIn before Christmas, and that was this challenge that we sometimes have when we have an idea for a post and we write it, and then we spend too much time afterwards trying to make it perfect before we click post and get it onto LinkedIn or wherever we're thinking about posting it. So it's not really the problem of not having ideas, not knowing what to post about. That's a completely different challenge, and there are other solutions for that too. But today I'm talking about those times when you want to post something, you've written it, and then it either doesn't make it, or you get frustrated with yourself because you're spending too much time checking, changing it back to how it was originally. And it's annoying because, time is precious. It's the most precious resource that we have. And if we feel that we're wasting it because we're being indecisive or because we can't quite get it right, then that can be frustrating. So I wanted to talk about that today and some tips that have worked for me, and maybe they'll work for you as well. So that's the idea. And I just wanted to be clear that sometimes I do make a distinction between social media texts and things that are going to be around for a long time. So if I have something on my website in another language, I don't have a website in multiple languages, but I do have a couple of pages in languages that I focus on. And if I'm going to do something like that, then I would want a second opinion. I tend to write them myself, but I do want someone else to look at it and to tell me if I have got it right in terms of how the page comes across and whether there are any basic errors. So I'm not really talking about that. Well, I don't mean basic errors, any errors at all. I don't want to see any errors, but it's easy to overlook things. And it matters more on a text that more people are going to see and that will be around for longer. But social media posts don't tend to have a very long life. Recently with LinkedIn, I've been seeing things from other people that are 3 weeks too late, which is nice when it's something like the podcast, because then it means more people are seeing it. On some of my event posts, it's not so helpful because the event's already happened, but okay. It's still good to have people seeing your content. So these tips are really for things that have a shorter life, but that you may be reluctant to post because you're overthinking writing them and creating them. So I have 7 things. So the first thing is sometimes just as basic as setting a timer, like, okay, you have X number of minutes to finish this, and then it's done. You do not have the next hour to think about this. You have, I don't know, 10 minutes or whatever you want your timer to be set to. And then after the time's up, you're not making any more changes. And so giving myself that kind of rule does help sometimes because it will stop me procrastinating. I'll look at it and think, okay, what's the biggest thing I want to change here? Fix that. And after the 10 minutes or however long is up, you think, okay, we're good to go now. This is as good as it's going to get. Because often the first changes we make improve it the most, and then we just some of the changes don't add anything. Some of them actually make it worse, and then you go back to what you had before. So set the timer. After that, it's going. I don't tend to do that, but I do that if I'm getting frustrated with myself. And for me, it's something that I do more when I'm writing content in other languages. I don't tend to have this challenge with writing in English because I like writing and I don't find it so hard. But when I'm writing in German, I definitely think this. And in Romanian, it generally doesn't even get published because I'm too self-critical. But sometimes as a last resort, this helps me if I just want to get the thing gone. The second thing is what I'm more likely to do, and that is to come back to something because I will see things the next day or later on that I didn't see when I wrote the initial draft. So I try to prepare my content in advance. I know some people are really organized and have content prepared well in advance, that doesn't really work for me because I like the degree of spontaneity, and I don't schedule my posts because I also want to be posting at a time when I'm around and interacting with other people and being present. So I tend to draft them in advance, but I don't schedule them. So for me, that means I can give it a last check through before I put something out. And that helps me to feel that I am giving it some time to check it properly without being too close to the text because I wrote it a day or a few days before. So giving yourself a bit of time and saying, okay, I'm not doing any more with this now. I will come back and look at it tomorrow. Sometimes that can help with this procrastination loop. The third thing is more of a mindset thing rather than a practical tip for writing. Is remember who will actually see this content, because we all want our content to do well, usually. We want people to see it and interact with it. And sometimes I'm really surprised at which posts do well. I can spend ages on something and not really see much interaction, and I can do something fairly quickly and it resonates more with people, or more people happen to see it. I don't know how the algorithm works, but I think sometimes if we are feeling a bit anxious about putting something out there, we think that everybody we know is going to see it. And the truth is, that's not what happens. Even people that interact with my content quite regularly have said, oh, I didn't see that. And I've posted about this thing 3 or 4 times already. And I think, really? Okay. I think we overestimate how much of our content people see and how many of our contacts see each piece of content. So just to keep in mind that it's not going to be your entire following. And sometimes that makes you feel a bit more relaxed about getting the thing online. Um, the next thing is be you. Like, don't over explain because you really want to make sure people get the idea. You don't want them to get the wrong idea. Sometimes I think we can tie ourselves in knots because we over explain. But also don't just give the basics if that's not what you would normally do. Like I've noticed in a couple of my posts about the German networking, I've just said, we've got German networking in 2 weeks. I hope to see you there, which isn't how I write in English. I've always got more to say than that. So, and I think that's doing myself a bit of a disservice because whilst I am getting something out there in German, it's not very Kirsty-like. It's not how I usually interact with people. So try to be yourself in terms of how you communicate, because that's how people are going to get to know you, but also be yourself in terms of the amount of information you give, or the style, or the way that you plan your post. Because sometimes I remember my German teacher when I was still at school, I was 16 or 17, and she said, Kirsty, what you say is generally right, but it's because you don't take risks. Like if you're not sure about something, you don't say it. And so what you're saying is generally okay, but I never find out all the other things you would like to say because you don't take those risks. And I know that I've done that with my other languages too, and it kind of stuck with me because if you play it safe, you're not really, okay, you're not making mistakes as much, but you're also not letting people know who you are and all the things you'd really like to share with them. The next thing is like, don't feel it has to be amazing. It has to be good enough. It has to be something that you feel good about sharing, that you're proud to put your name to, but it doesn't have to be something that's like that no one else has ever spoken about, because people won't speak about the topic in the way that you will. Or I think sometimes people don't post things because they think, oh, who will want to read that? Who's interested in that? And often people are, it doesn't have to be some groundbreaking new discovery to put it on LinkedIn. It's your take on a topic, something you've learned, something you want to share with others, something that may be helpful to others, as well as the sales content that we can create as well. But it doesn't, sometimes I think people can set the bar really high, like, oh, it has to match all these criteria before I can write the post, and it really doesn't. Maybe there are some people who might want to look at that a bit more the other way, like really, you posted that? But I'm not here to judge anyone, but I think the people who need to think about this the least are the people who think about it the most. And therefore, it's good just to think, yeah, actually, And look at what's happened in the past as well. If you're someone that gets good interactions and people appreciate what you're sharing as well, then of course they're going to want to hear more of what you have to say. And just on this point about what's worth sharing, I think sometimes in the past few months or so, I've seen a lot more storytelling posts doing well. I've been talking about something that has happened to you, something that you've learned, something that was a helpful experience for you, maybe in your career. I'm not talking necessarily about sharing your personal stories, although there are times when this can work well as well, but I'm talking about the kind of post that cannot be generated by AI, or it could, but not in a convincing way because it's more personal, sharing something about you and your experience. Like these posts cannot be faked as easily. And I think maybe that's why some of them are doing better because people can relate in a way that they maybe wouldn't to other types of content. So don't set the bar too high for whether you think something even deserves to be an idea or deserves to be a LinkedIn post. Um, and the next one is commenting. If it is language related or if it is just about getting your name and your voice out there on a social media site, commenting is as much being part of the conversation. So and it feels a bit less daunting maybe to comment on someone else's post. Also, don't do it just to make yourself feel better. Make sure you've got something useful to contribute or helpful to them. But it is a way that I think sometimes people think all the time, oh, we have to post. And yeah, it's helpful to you, but also being an active part in the conversations, playing your role, speaking with other people, it's all part of the experience. And if you are a bit more reluctant to do that in one of your additional languages, then commenting can be a good way to make it feel a bit more normal using that language to post on social media. But don't just do it for that, also do it to add genuinely helpful comments and to build relationships. And the last one is get feedback if you want. So I started off by saying that for longer pieces or for parts of my website, I will get feedback from humans, from people who can give me their honest opinion about it. I think for social media that there is a place for using AI to give feedback. I don't use AI to write any of my stuff because I don't like what it creates, even with a decent prompt. I don't want to outsource that. But I do sometimes use it for checking what I've written, but with very specific prompts. So I don't want it to change my text without telling me. I usually post my text in German and ask for suggestions in terms of how it can be improved and why. Um, and so I get like a list of bullet points afterwards with how it is, how the AI tool says it should be, and then I get to decide for each suggestion whether I agree with it. Like if I've made a mistake, then it's something that I can obviously see as a mistake or a typo, or okay, I can fix that. If it's something about style, I can choose whether that's something that I would actually say or not. And if I wouldn't, then I don't use it. But I want to keep the power to decide what happens with my text, and which is why I don't allow any changes to be made to my texts. I see it more as a learning experience. So that is a use case for AI, but I think that for me, that's fine because it's things that I may not have known or may have forgotten about the language, but I don't want to go any further that down the road of allowing text to be generated for me because I don't want my voice to be taken away from me, and other people have different opinions on that. That's up to them, but I'm giving my tips, so that's how I would approach that. So all in all, there are seven tips, seven things to think about, and being active on social media is about staying top of mind. It's about sharing what you have to say to the conversation in your first language or in your working language or in another language because you find it interesting. And I think it's a good way to stay connected and to stay part of the conversations that are going on with colleagues or potential clients or um, if you're kind of just hiding, nobody's going to know that you're there. So I do think it is good to push ourselves out of our comfort zones a bit, but also to save ourselves time by not wasting time checking and rechecking. And you can waste a lot of time that way. I have in the past. So yeah, I hope those tips are useful. This came from a conversation on LinkedIn, and that's another thing. That's another way to get inspiration about what to talk about or post about, just by thinking about what's happened around you and some of the obviously not confidential conversations that you've had, but some of the more general ones can give you inspiration for social media content. And just as a couple of notices, I won't put anything here that is going to go out of date really quickly in case people come back, but the best way to find out what's happening at English with Kirsty in terms of all the events is to sign up for the newsletter, which you can do on any page of my website, englishwithkirsty.com, or to check the events page, which is englishwithkirsty.com/events, nice and easy. And then you can see all the latest news about what's going on and what events I have in the next few weeks or next month or so, but it's usually the next month from now, and I keep it up to date with all the information. So, and also come and follow me or send me a request or whatever on LinkedIn, because that's where I spend most of my time creating content these days, apart from the podcast. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any tips or experiences that you want to share, send me a message at kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com or comment when I post this on social media. And yeah, have a great day, and I will be back again with another episode soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.